Have you ever poured your entire soul, every last dime, and countless sleepless nights into building your dream home, only for a nightmare neighbor to appear, smiling, and casually declare it's hers? Our blood ran cold that day. But what makes this story truly unbelievable is how, years later, that same neighbor's entitlement and greed came crashing down on her, leaving her with a staggering $200,000 bill, all thanks to her own malicious actions. This isn't just a story, it's a saga of betrayal, vindication, and the ultimate sweet taste of karma. Let me introduce you to the main players in this epic tale. We'll call our entitled neighbor Anne, and her spoiled son, who was the root of many problems, S. There's also P.O., the previous owner of our house, who plays a limited but crucial part. Keep in mind, this story spans almost 15 years, so a lot happened between events. To truly understand the dramatic climax, we need to rewind a bit. Anne was quite wealthy, owning a massive chunk of land near a popular recreational lake. While not all properties there were ultra-valuable, the road to the lake was frequented by very rich people, a detail that becomes quite relevant later. Anne eventually divided her extensive property into 4 sections for her children. One went to her daughter, surprisingly, a decent person despite her family, and another to S. She even built houses for them. On the 4th section, not near her own home, she built a small convenience store. Now, Anne did something curious, she actually deeded these properties to her children. You can probably guess where this is going. While Anne's daughter was indeed respectable, S was an absolute nightmare. A party maniac, everyone in the neighborhood, including us, absolutely hated him. Loud, obnoxious late-night parties were his norm, keeping everyone awake. The police knew him so well, it felt like they had someone permanently stationed nearby. His entitlement probably didn't help, and paid all his bills, water, electric, garbage, everything, all sent to her mailbox. Except for one. Since the property was in S's name, so were the property taxes. He never gave them to Anne, he just ignored them. Anne, for her part, either didn't notice or assumed he was handling it. So, when the police finally showed up at his house, it wasn't a surprise. What was shocking was that he didn't come back. The house went up for auction. The place was a total wreck. Holes in the drywall, a massive gaping maw in the living room floor leading to the garage, a kitchen floor and subfloor that needed complete replacement, and walls plastered in mud. S's irresponsibility and party habits had left the house in what banks considered an unlivable condition. Because of this, only cash buyers could even touch it. That's where P.O., a retired house flipper, entered the scene. He wasn't a TV star, he was a hobbyist, buying cheap, dilapidated houses, fixing them himself, living off the profit, and then moving to the next. We were hunting for a new home, on a tight budget. When we saw this place online, it seemed perfect, the right size, the ideal neighborhood, and close to the lake we loved. We drove by, saw P.O. working, and struck up a conversation. He told us his realtor had put it online early to streamline the process. We clicked with him, shared our vision of making it our forever home, and offered to buy it as is. He politely declined, saying he already had other offers and would sell it for full price once finished. We left our number, hopeful. Less than 2 weeks later, an unexpected call. P.O.'s sister had fallen ill in another state, and he needed to leave immediately. He wouldn't have time or patience to finish. He warned us it wasn't up to code, but if we could find a way to buy it, he'd give us a reasonable price. We jumped at the chance. Through a realtor friend, we found a bank willing to loan the money, but with a catch: we had 2 weeks to bring it up to code, or they'd default and auction it. P.O., being the stand-up guy he was, offered to help. He couldn't do the work himself, but he meticulously outlined what needed to be done, the time, the effort, the cost. He even offered a unique financial solution: we took a loan for double what he wanted, and he gave us back half. That money funded the repairs. The house was surprisingly close to code thanks to his prior work. With the help of friends, we knocked it out in half the required time. But even after it was up to code, so much work remained. For months, we replaced floors, rewired, patched holes, and stripped away disgusting, decomposing wallpaper. It was blood, sweat, and tears. Finally, it was time to move into our dream home. We weren't even fully moved in when N, all smiles and neighborly charm, came over to introduce herself. P.O. had warned us repeatedly about her entitlement, but she seemed so nice. Then, her true colors emerged. As our conversation wound down, she explained, ever so sweetly, that our house actually belonged to her. She said we had 30 days to get out, feigning sympathy, claiming we'd been scammed. Our hearts sank. We'd heard horror stories about such scams. All that money, all that effort, all that hope, gone? We thanked her, promised to talk to the bank and P.O., and immediately did. The bank confirmed P.O. held the deed. Our realtor confirmed it. P.O., exasperated, confirmed he'd been harassed by N multiple times after buying it at auction. We even went to the courthouse. Our names were officially on the deed. It was during this process that we learned the full backstory of S from several neighbors, and returned, asking when we'd be out. We firmly, but politely, explained we owned the property. We acknowledged her loss, understanding it must be hard to lose family property due to her son's negligence, but reiterated it wasn't our fault, and we wouldn't just give up our hard-earned home. And then launched into a long, tearful sob story about generational family property, claiming P.O. had stolen it during the confusion of S.'s arrest. We asked why they didn't bid for it at auction. We'd bought it from P.O. for only about $50,000, a small profit for him after his work, but still incredibly cheap. They could have bought it back for next to nothing. And scoffed. She refused to pay for something that rightfully belonged to them. We apologized again, but held our ground. We weren't taking a loss, not after all our investment. However, we were sympathetic. We offered to sell it to her for a very reasonable $100,000. Considering its location and our extensive renovations, that was still just over half its market value. We'd even have considered $90,000. Her counteroffer? A shocking $40,000. She understood our effort, so she'd generously add an extra $10,000 to her initial $0 demand. When we pointed out we'd bought it for $50,000, she exploded, calling us liars and thieves, dismissing our beloved home as a complete dump. That was it. Calling our dream home, into which we'd poured blood, sweat, and tears, a dump? We were done. We kindly but firmly told her to leave, stating she was no longer welcome, and we'd never sell to her, even if she offered double the market value. She hurled insults as she stormed out. Soon, and was spreading rumors through the neighborhood, we were thieves, we stole her house. At first, we ignored it. Who would believe such nonsense? Then, a pickup truck pulled into our driveway. A man, gun in hand, threatened us to leave. This was Mr. Peacekeeper, a respected, if unofficial, figure in our rural neighborhood, known for maintaining calm where the police often didn't. Most people liked him. We cautiously invited him in for a beer, agreeing to both have our guns at hand, a common, if unsettling, custom in our town. After a few hours of explaining, he apologized. He'd been caught up in the rumors, but understood. He even thanked us for buying the house. S's departure meant no more loud music or drunk teenagers stumbling down the road. We laughed, and he left. By the way, if you're still with me and enjoying this wild ride, make sure to hit that subscribe button. More unbelievable stories like this are coming. Now, why Mr. Peacekeeper was so quick to believe N's rumors about us, that takes us to N's convenience store. It was hugely popular, perfectly located, and the only one for miles. Not for its prices, they notoriously overcharged, or its customer service, which usually amounted to a curt thank you. But convenience trumped all. We even shopped there ourselves, despite our differences. Anne's store gave her a positive reputation, and everyone wanted to keep their convenient little shop. So when she started spreading rumors about us, people listened. The stolen house rumors blew over as ridiculous, but people still largely trusted her. Years later, S got out of prison. With nowhere else to go, and let him move into an apartment above her store, strictly forbidding parties. He didn't pay rent, he just ran the store when and was busy. But S hadn't changed. He routinely double-charged for items, pocketing the difference. We noticed this several times, getting refunds with the excuse the register is broken. After seeing a clear pattern, we brought it to Anne's attention. Even she wasn't so openly dishonest, and we genuinely didn't want anything to happen to her store. Her response? We were imagining things. Politely, she told us to screw off. So we did. But we also shared our experience with our newfound friends. It had taken years to get them to even talk to us, let alone trust us, thanks to Anne's initial smear campaign. Now, our annual Christmas treats had finally broken the ice. Our friends, though initially skeptical, thanked us for the warning. Word spread. Soon, Mr. Peacekeeper was back, but much friendlier this time. He often visited, chatting about neighborhood happenings. He took his role as informal community guardian seriously, preferring to keep the peace himself rather than involve the actual police. This arrangement meant kids could walk safely to the lake, even through the less law-abiding parts of the neighborhood. He didn't like our rumors about Anne's shop, though. He said he'd spoken to them, and they'd blamed register issues. He warned us to stop spreading falsehoods. We knew he wouldn't believe our proof, he liked Anne too much. So, we apologized, claiming we felt wronged and wanted to protect our friends. He accepted, gave a final warning, and left. We stopped shopping there unless absolutely necessary. But things shifted a few more years later. Even after Mr. Peacekeeper initially tried to quash our false rumors about us stealing, people had started paying closer attention to their receipts. They noticed the same double-charging pattern we had. S had pocketed untold amounts of money, and Anne, despite her denial, knew. She had chosen to silence people with rumors rather than address her son's theft. Small country stores like Anne's are completely dependent on their neighborhood regulars. They make a huge profit during tourist season, but it's not enough to sustain them through winter. And then it happened, Mr. Peacekeeper finally connected the dots. Boy, was he furious. We could hear him from next door, cursing out S and Anne. The satisfaction was immense. But that was just the beginning. That same day, he went door to door, telling everyone exactly what S and Anne had been doing, even carrying a stack of damning receipts as proof. If anyone was trusted more than Anne, it was Mr. Peacekeeper. Within 24 hours, their business was ruined. Everyone in the neighborhood stopped coming. They still did okay in the summer with vacationers, but once winter hit and those crowds vanished, they hemorrhaged money. After 2 winters, they were forced to close for the season, throwing away 90% of their stock and restocking every spring. It wasn't economical. After 3 more years, they permanently closed their shop. Their reputation in the neighborhood cratered. Thanks to this, people finally started respecting us. We made friends without extra effort. People stopped ignoring us like we had the plague. But this was just the beginning of Anne's downfall. Now, for the climax. Anne is extremely nosy. We couldn't step outside without her watching us through her window, or finding some excuse, walking her dog, picking weeds, to be outside, observing our every move. We wanted to install a pool and hot tub, and frankly, didn't want to be stared at in our bathing suits. So, we started looking into a privacy fence. Being good neighbors, we informed Anne. She vehemently rejected the idea. We told her we were putting one up but offered to discuss details, color, shape. We wanted to avoid her staring at something she found an eyesore, given her favorite pastime. We genuinely tried to be the best neighbors, despite her crap. To avoid any disputes, we planned to put the fence a foot inside our property line. This was important. Even before S went to jail, we'd gotten a copy of our deed and property map. We were shocked to find Anne was claiming about a third of our property, including a small shed and a garden. Our property lines aren't straight boxes, they're more trapezoid-shaped, common in our rural area. A line of trees runs through a triangular section of our land, but Anne had claimed the other side of these trees as hers, essentially squaring off her property at our expense. When we brought this up, she completely freaked out, calling us liars and thieves again. We hadn't cared much before, thinking it was hers. To simplify things, we offered to sell it to her or even trade for a small, inconvenient piece of her property that connected with ours. She flatly refused, claiming she'd never pay for something that already belonged to her, and wouldn't give us her property after we'd stolen ours. A huge property dispute began. In our rural area, property lines are often centuries old, using vague landmarks that may no longer exist. Disputes are common. To address this, our state has extremely strict laws regarding surveyors. If a surveyor makes an honest mistake, even by a few feet, they face a hefty fine, lose their license permanently, and must refund all clients from the past decade, offering them a free resurvey by an independent party at the original surveyor's expense. If found guilty of accepting a bribe or blackmail, the briber covers all damages and fees. This makes surveyors actively avoid property disputes. So, getting one to survey your land when there's a known dispute is nearly impossible, or prohibitively expensive. Unfortunately, before we could find one, and did. We suspect she bribed them, because they drew the property line exactly as she described it. Except for one tiny detail she must have forgotten to mention, our property actually stretched to about a foot from her house. That was fun to discover. The land markers from the bank's initial survey when we bought the property conveniently disappeared before we moved in, by the way. We still wonder how that happened. At this point, getting a surveyor would cost more than the land itself, if we could even find one willing to risk their career. They gave us ridiculous quotes. We were saving up. And that brings us to a few months ago, the climax. A terrible storm hit, knocking down a tree on the disputed property. This tree was right next to the road. It didn't just damage our other neighbor's property, it totaled someone's brand new sports car driving down the street. Thankfully, no one was hurt. The cleanup took days. Then, the bill arrived, over $200,000. More than our house and property combined, even after all our renovations. Malicious compliance time. For those who don't know, most property insurance doesn't cover damage to other people's property. If your property, like a tree you could have reasonably maintained, damages someone else's, you're 100% responsible. So, when the bill arrived from the rich person's insurance company for their totaled sports car, we calmly called them. We explained the tree wasn't on our property. They investigated, then sent us a letter with a copy of our deed and property line printout, the tree circled in red, clearly showing it was on our land. They demanded full payment within 30 days. We called again, re-explaining. The agent argued, politely implying we'd have to be brain dead to believe the tree wasn't ours. We simply gave them the number for the surveyor and hired. The agent sighed, agreeing to investigate but reiterating we had 2 weeks to pay. We never heard back from them. Remember the consequences for a surveyor giving false results? Even if and bribed him, there's no way he was paid enough to cover losing his license, all his clients, and potential lawsuits. He'd probably have to leave the country. He certainly wasn't going to give the insurance company different results from what he gave Anne. We called the insurance company later for an update. The agent, surprisingly cheerful, couldn't reveal much due to confidentiality, but shared this, and also disputed the claim, saying the tree wasn't on her property. The surveyor confirmed his results. Since we weren't disputing the survey and hired the surveyor, the insurance company had no reason to believe the results were false. Therefore, full responsibility for all damages caused by the fallen tree fell squarely on Anne. We were beyond satisfied. That's exactly what we expected. The aftermath? Anne clearly had a sizable nest egg, because she eventually paid the $200,000 without having to sell any land. But she is not pleased with us. Every time she looks our way, her expression is pure venom. For some reason, she doesn't seem to like the fact that we let her keep our land for free. You know, the land she claimed was hers all along. LOL. Now, any rumors she tries to spread about us would backfire spectacularly. We've made good friends in the neighborhood, and absolutely nobody trusts in anymore. They know us was stealing from them right under her nose, and she did nothing to stop it. And is stuck between a rock and a hard place, and we're just sitting back, watching the fires she started burn her to the ground. Can't wait to see what happens next. Oh, and here's a little extra fun. While contemplating that privacy fence, we installed an invisible dog fence. It's a buried wire that, when a dog with a special collar gets too close, emits a beep, then a mild, harmless static correction. We wanted our dogs to roam free without a physical fence. We'd set the boundary well inside our property, partly because it wasn't that long, and partly to keep our dogs far from Anne's yard. Anne, perhaps thinking it marked our future privacy fence, deliberately ran over it with her lawnmower. Keep in mind, this was more than 5 feet past what even she claimed was her property line. We all learned that day that electrical lawnmowers do not play well with electrified wires. Her mower was utterly trashed, every electrical component fried. She had to buy a whole new one, just because she wanted to be petty and run over our markers. The best part? Since it was so far on our side of the property line, she had no way to blame us. She tried to spread rumors, of course, but they didn't go anywhere. Blaming us would have made her look incredibly stupid. She never even asked us to buy her a new mower. I guess she knew how we'd respond. So, tell me, what would you have done in our place when Anne first demanded you leave your own home? Have you ever faced such blatant entitlement from a neighbor? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below, I'm genuinely curious.